Hey, besties, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Megan, and today we have week three of episodes that were way too good to not be shown to the world just because this summer, low key, I had probably one of the darkest souls, Nights of the Soul. Can't speak English, but here we are. My guest this week truly I've now known her for over a year. And since she popped on the scene and I first was in a coaching space with her, she has impressed me from day one. Her just authentic light especially when it comes to creativity and the way that she's navigating the space and how much she has grown from when I met this girl to where she is now is of course inspiring, but it is just a testament to who she is. She's truly doing something that I wish I had when I was looking for someone to design Megan Unbound, Spirits Unbound for my OGs, if we remember back in the day. And I'm just so excited to share her magic with everyone because I feel like she is someone that is going to just continue to grow. I mean, she's already so talented, but how she's merging design and spirituality and making it bring it all together so it actually becomes a true soul expression. Like that she's just speaking my language and truly like when I was looking for a designer, like that's what I was looking for. Like and I was searching everywhere. I was searching everywhere. And I wound up finding my girl on Pinterest and she's not even doing design work anymore. And so now that Isabel is on the scene, I can't wait to share her work with you and of course dive into all of her placements and we have a really great discussion about creativity and community and how these spaces all really connect and how she brings out her magic into the world. She is just such an incredible light. And so I'm so excited to dive into this episode this week. Isabel Bagsik is a creative guide and soul brand designer, truly, who works with visionaries and heart-led entrepreneurs ready to get paid for their creative work while honoring their well-being. Isabel has a double bachelor's degree in design and digital media from UC Davis, founded the Brown Papaya magazine, and designed for nonprofits, multi-billion corporations, and even your favorite celebrities. Something that she used to not brag about, and we're bragging about it now. With 10 plus years designing, strategizing, event organizing, and space holding for 500 plus folks of diverse backgrounds, she nurtures your creative spirit to finally get your ideas launched, get you paid, and find your soul community, all while caring for your well being. She supports your goals through one on one mentorship, group programs, and intimate community experiences. Isabel is truly the real fucking deal. She's incredible. I can't wait for you to meet her. And without further ado, here's Isabel. Hello, Isabel. I am so excited to have you on the show. You've been someone I've admired literally since day one in one of our business. We were both a part of like a business container together, but like the OG container together. And I just always admired your drive and your creativity and just how you move through the world. And so I'm just so excited to have you on the podcast to get into your energy and read your chart and just like show you how amazing and incredible you are. Even though I know that you know that, but I love it.
Thank you, Megan. I'm so excited to be chatting with you, learn from you, and witness your gifts just live. And so, thank you for the lovely words. It's been such a wonderful gift to witness your own creative business journey as well. So, excited to dive into all of it today.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun. So, kind of like the episode that I had with Alexa, for those that have been with me for some time, when I had my guest Alexa on, we kind of did this little highlight of, really highlighting, of course, my guest and then diving into all their placements and charts. So before we go into all of that, Isabel, if you want to introduce yourself, tell my audience who you are, what you do, what makes you so fucking awesome, and like all of it. And then if you want to then get into your intention, what we want to focus on today, what we really want some guidance on, maybe clarity on, all of that good stuff.
Okay, great. Yes. So, hello, everyone. I'm Isabel Bagsik. I'm a Filipina American creative wellness guide and soulful brand designer here to support heart led visionaries and leaders with really diving into bringing their incredible visions and ideas to life through authentic branding, as well as taking care of their well being with creative rituals integrated. So that's the gist of what I do as a creative wellness guide through mentorship and as a soulful brand designer with helping leaders with their branding.
So cool. I was like geeking out when you were there was some post that you posted maybe like last week or a few weeks ago talking about being on a call with one of your branding clients and like taking time to breathe like before even getting into the call and just like the way that you approach design and just even like getting these visions out of from your work from your clients and like is just so refreshing in the space, because I think even when I worked with branding folks, it's like we're answering this long questionnaire. And though we love a good questionnaire and we do want to get specific and all of that, I think your approach to how you produce these results, especially again, and then looking in your human design, your greatest sense is your inner vision. So, like, of course, your creativity, like coming from your third eye, coming from within, like seeing everything eternally before bringing it forward, I think it's just so special. It's so
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you. And it's always so fascinating to hear how my chart or like who I am through these different modalities reflect and affirm that. So, yeah, just like really being able to take parts of myself that I kind of separated when I was in the design industry as a designer and art director, that I was kind of playing small or kind of like hiding that spiritual
Mm.
side of myself, that side that I thought was, oh, this is kind of weird. Is this like too deep? Too like, is this too emotional, whatever? Because it's very rigid and follows a really distinct process, which definitely has its space for a lot of work. But I realized that I operate differently. And the more that I deepen into creating something that really feels so good for me, that, wait, I'm a creative. I can literally create anything, like any container, any community experience, any offering. And so, why not allow this space where I can fully express and show up in a way where I feel expansive and not shrinking? So, thank you for reflecting that.
Oh my gosh. And meanwhile, and I'm pretty sure you've gotten your chart read before. So I know this is like not new news, but like your natal chart is also so perfectly like what you do and like who you are. Like it like looking at it, I'm like, this is insane. Like not only your Gemini moon being in the fifth house, which is all
Wait,
around.
I'm a
I'm sorry, your
is it
Gemini
Gemini? Okay,
sun.
I was like,
Sorry.
wait, did I send my information wrong? Okay, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like, I can't speak today. No, your Gemini sun being in the fifth house, literally like the house of creativity, of
Mm,
expression, of inner child play and boldness and fun and true expression, paired with then like so that fun creative energy with your Capricorn moon, Capricorn rising,
mhm.
which is the thing that I want to point out, like, because design, especially like corporate design, can be very rigid. So it's like your Capricorn thrived, right? With like structure, discipline,
Yes.
like knowing like to put in the work, to do the study, right? To really like become that. But your moon in Capricorn is in the 12th house, which is super deep. Like, that's just a very,
Mm,
very deep placement, right? So there's always this yearning for, like, yes, though this structure, right? I'm almost envisioning like a well. Like, though this structure, this well, this container needs this container, it's almost like this endless well, right? There's
mm,
just actually no
yeah.
bottom. And like you breaking out of the corporate space and finding your own ways of deepening into your own creativity and realizing that you can create anything. And though these systems and the processes and the tools are there to help you, that creative spark comes from within, and you get to test the limits of your own creativity. The 12th house is all about like rebirth, endings, and other
Oh,
worlds,
yeah.
right? Like it's a deep, deep placement. And so knowing that like your eternal world goes that deep, and I think that's something to even highlight with your clients. It's like, I'm not going to just send you this branding questionnaire. Like, I like can really see into your soul and I bring out your generator self. Like, you're also really here to just light up the world and light up the world with your divine light, your special gifts, your creativity. And so, not only are you able to shine this light on your client, but you're also able to bring them through a process with you, right? And like bring even them into a deeper knowing of like who they are, their identity, and how they want to show themselves into the world. And you get to guide them through that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like I'm, a baby in astrology still. Like, I really know my big three. I know a few other of my placements. I am not familiar with or memorized with what each of the houses mean and like where everything is for
Hmm.
me. So it's really interesting to learn more about where my Capricorn's in the 12th house and what that means for me and how that translates to my work. So yeah, that was so interesting and so affirming for sure because I definitely can be super deep and sometimes I'm like, especially when I was younger, I'm like, does anyone who can relate to me? Because I feel like I'm kind of weird for like overthinking or getting this sentimental or deep or intellectualizing things.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh. I think that's what I love about the astrology the most. And it's so funny. When I started getting to astrology too, the houses were like one of the last things I like learned. I was like, okay, I just because there's so much, right? Astrology
Mhm.
is like an onion. Like it just keeps going and going and going. But the more that I realized and started to learn and got acquainted with all of it, the houses bring so much awareness to what all of these things mean, right? And like, I love highlighting the houses because it really helps understand where these planets are and where these elements in your life are on a deeper, deeper level, which is so cool. But I want to highlight, and if you can bring us through this journey of like, because I feel like a lot of people, especially at least my clients and my audience, like really maybe they are an entrepreneur or they want to be an entrepreneur and they started, because now, now that I know your birthday, you just turned 30, you're a year younger than me, a couple of millennial vibes,
Mhm.
and I love that for us.
Yes.
But like us millennial vibes also like we really I feel like we're ingrained in this like corporate like the corporate track. We went to school, we went to college, and then we got a job, and then we worked that job, and then we were like, is this it? Like, is this like what our parents then just like continue to do for the rest of their lives? And now here we are. And so I feel like as millennials, not only are we having like our midlife crisis, I think we're calling it like a quarter life crisis now, like so much earlier than necessarily like our parents did. But I'd love to kind of have you walk us through your transition from, you know, being in this corporate world, coming out of it, and like what brought you then to like really diving into your work now, right? Because with the over intellectualizing, very Capricorn rising too, over analytical, the judgment, all of that, like what really brought you to then embody like and embrace this part of you that maybe wasn't able to be embraced in
Yeah.
corporate, right?
Yeah. Ooh, where do I start? Okay, there's a few milestones that I usually refer to, so I don't have to start from my birth. So, or even like my ancestors, because those narratives definitely connect and show up still. So we'll start just a few years back. Okay, so for me, some milestones that really kind of catapulted to where I am now. So I've been a designer and art director um, across various industries for pretty much a little over a decade. And I, so it, I'm wondering if there's anything that you could recall in terms of astrology
Mhm.
moments when I put out like certain dates. Maybe you don't, that's okay. But I'm just gonna throw that out there because that's always interesting.
Uh-huh.
Um, but okay. So there was a big transition during the height of the pandemic at the end of 2021 for me.
Mhm.
Actually, the summer of 2021, I was in one job and I there's so many factors affecting burnout and imposter syndrome and losing passion for creativity and not having time for passion projects like I used to. And I was kind of in denial and didn't really realize that there were two friends that I was diving deeper into my spiritual work and we were reading each other's cards and things. And one of them had a vision or dreams, really an omen for me. She's also very tapped into her spirituality and her gifts and she saw like fire and she saw like a letter, something about job transition ending, literally predicted what happened.
We
So
love psychic friends. Having a psychic friend is the best.
the best, but it's also scary. And
Totally.
like sometimes, do I need to hear this right now? I know you're right, but we love them.
We love them,
So
but maybe we can ask permission next time.
right.
See if I can receive this.
Right. But it's always a fun story to retell. So with that, I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's called confirmation bias or whatever the term is, where you hear something, you start paying attention to the thing. But I
Mhm.
started seeing fires everywhere. There's like a
Mhm.
lot of, I mean, I'm in California. There's a lot of fires happening at the time. But also, what really confirmed it was random ones. One that really felt like an omen was I was with my family driving somewhere, just like a random weekend doing shopping or whatever. And we go into the freeway. We saw smoke and then we got into the freeway and we saw one car in flames. Like not just like a part of it, not like a little spark or whatever. It was kind of freaky. The whole car was in flames.
God.
You could feel the heat emanating from when you just passed by and just like the smoke. I tried to look it up online. I don't know if I didn't do enough research, but I couldn't find any news about it. And I'm like, that's a big fire sign right there. And anyway, fast forwarding, I did end up figuring out that it wasn't a right fit anymore for that particular role at that job. And I was urgently looking for a new role. And so at the end of 2021, I was interviewing and applying almost every day for like a month or 2 months. And the start of 2022, I felt numb. I fortunately
Mhm.
landed a job that was absolutely wonderful and better fit, better working conditions and life balance. But the only goal I had at the start of 2022 was to feel joy again.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that it was burnout and a lot of imposter syndrome affecting me, a lack of creative confidence, and all these things. And fast forwarding during that time, I got a lot of support and help from different guides and healers and my own inner work and spiritual ancestral work. And getting a lot of creative confidence there. But funny enough, well, actually, before that, the end of that, the end of 2023, 2022, sometime during that, uh, end of 2022, October 2022. I don't know if that holds significance for me, but that's when I had surgery to remove a cyst on my ovary.
Mm.
And several months before that, I had a lot of health things coming up that was a mystery until I figured out that there was a cyst. And so get your pap smears for those who have a uterus. Get your pap smears. And it was really scary. I've never had a surgery, even though it's a routine surgery. And
Mhm.
I left to go home that same day. It was scary, and I was thinking about my mortality and existence. And I during that time told myself I would devote myself to my creativity fully, and that I aside from my loved ones and the things that were left unsaid, the other big thing that came to mind during this time was what were the projects and ideas that went unfinished if this was it. And so that was a big catalyst to really dive deep fully, devotedly to whatever creative work that I wanted to do once I
Mm.
recovered. And just a few months after that, April of 2023 is when I got laid off from my job. There was like a mini mass layoff at work. And differently from the other job transition, I actually felt excited, like a weight off my shoulders. I felt this hope and openness and ideas of, oh my gosh, I can now do what I want, create what I want, do the things that I'm
Mm.
curious about. And it's funny because for years, I told myself I never do freelance work. I don't have the discipline. I don't want to do that. I want someone else to take care of that. But there really is no job security. Like, you just never know. And
Mhm.
so why not bet on myself? I've had savings. That's another thing too. I've been saving. So for any emergency that might come up. And so I also felt comfortable to do that. And that was the big universe pushing me off the cliff to do what I now do
Mm.
today. So that's that story. Hopefully,
Oh
hopefully
my
that was clear.
God. Well, that's so powerful. And I can't speak to specific dates, but I do want to highlight some things because I found your story to be so powerful. And I think so many of us come to these moments in our lives where we take a hard look at ourselves and we're like, what are we doing? How have I been living?
Mhm.
Not even, and a lot of us also don't even realize that we're in burnout, just like you were, but not even realizing it. We love to maybe say it's the wrong job or we're living in the wrong city or we're in the wrong relationship. And, you know, instead of realizing it's actually it's a mix of all of it. And I genuinely I'm so tired. And it's so interesting that the point that you were brought to is the cyst that you have because your Chiron, so your
Ooh.
wounded healer,
Mhm.
it's an asteroid in the sky where it kind of almost gives us it's like the lessons that we're really here to learn, right? And the lesson that and the wounding that we're really here to heal. And it can kind of keep showing up if we don't really learn how to nurture it. So your Chiron is in your eighth house, which is sex, intimacy,
Oh.
other other people's income. It's like passive income and stuff like that. And it's in Virgo, which Virgo is represented by the maiden and an earth sign, right? Mutable. She's like the empress of tarot. So when we think of the tarot cards. So when we think of Virgo and we think of this wounded healer and you starting to do all of this ancestral work and energy work and really almost grounding yourself back down and out, this Chiron, to me, when I heard that you had a cyst in your ovary, I'm just like, oh my God, it was your body starting to bring attention to all the other imbalance that we have in our life, right?
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
have helping us realize that through the burnout and almost like the pushing away of like the depth that you have and counting or like selling ourselves short. I had a mentor tell me like everyone always dies with a song on their heart, and that makes me really sad, but it also
Mm.
makes me like really kind of like that moment that you had, like realize it's like we all have a story to tell, we all have something on our hearts, and it's really up to us to do something about that. And especially again with your son in that fifth house of creativity, your north node also being in Scorpio, which is also ruled by the eighth house, and your Jupiter, your planet of expansion and growth and abundance, both being in your 10th house, both being in Scorpio, your 10th house being of career, public image, who you are, like how you're presenting yourself to the world, right? Like, I find it to be so interesting with Scorpio being this again, like the taboo, the depth, the mystery, the sex and intimacy and deeper knowledge, right? Deeper truths, deeper knowing of how you want to move through this world. And so I feel like that moment really was able to take you and kind of almost like remove like that cloud that I feel like can sometimes be around us when we're like think that we have to move through life a certain way and be a certain way, right? And like it really brought you back to your actual truth of like what are these projects that would have been just they would have died with me, right? If this didn't happen, and it is what actually pushed you to bet on yourself, right? And especially, I mean, you are still going through your Saturn return as well, but your Saturn in Pisces in your second house of earning, of money, of income. So, like, you are learning all this discipline around how to make money for yourself, how to bring in money, like in also a very creative, compassionate way with Pisces, right? There's a little bit of that fantasy and that dreamer and that understanding, but it's all playing together really for you, which I find to be the coolest, like just the coolest. How does all of that resonate?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I definitely need to play this back, take some notes, paste it on my wall because I'm like, oh my gosh, all these things that I can't memorize, but I'm like, ooh, I want to sit with longer and reflect on and see how that continues to show up or how to work with that. Because, yeah, I have had readings from other folks, and it's always interesting to hear what comes up, especially, you know, that's definitely a fantasy of mine to have to regularly work with an astrologer for business because you
Girl,
can
me
learn a
too.
lot. Yeah, you can learn a lot for how to work with your gifts that you're inherently already
Mhm.
embodying in a way that feels so easeful and effortless to call in
Mhm.
that abundance along with the financial abundance and everything else in between within your chart. So, yeah, just thank you for that information. Again, I'm going to take notes when this episode comes out.
I love it. I love it. No, I mean, I feel like for me, astrology is such a cool tool because you don't need to know it because it's really cool to actually know it, but it really at the end of the day works with your own intuition. Like
Mm,
I'm simply just relaying like through your own life experience like why that makes sense.
yeah.
Right? Like according to your chart like of course these are the realizations that come from this. Of course once you started to embrace like the divine feminine and getting back into your body and into your womb again, like of course again, and also the womb being your creative center,
Hmm.
like which I'm also just realizing and like removing this piece of yourself to like create room and bring in that awareness for like everything else that started to happen. Like I find it to be so fascinating. And like I think a lot of the time we feel like we need, like when we start learning all this information, it's like we're being guided by it. But at the end of the day, like we are guiding ourselves whether we know or we not, and or we don't, right? Like it's so, I find it to be so interesting that even like in a time of our lives when maybe we were just starting to get into all this stuff, right? Especially like 2020 and like all of that time of life, I feel like awakened a lot of us and like brought us into this place like, oh yeah, like I remember I was like Googling like what's a boundary? Like
Mm,
didn't know.
yeah.
Like I didn't know anything. And so I feel like we all started to like come up and awaken and we got into our bodies and realized what overwhelm was, realized what burnout was, realizing like this path that we were going on like might not actually be like what feels like in alignment. And so I would love to hear like now out of this, right? Like now you brought yourself through all of these shifts and changes, you healed your body, you healed your creativity, like what are you facing now and how does it feel to like live in the life that you created for yourself?
Yeah. So I do want to share that I'm so grateful for community and for family that I am able to really dive deep into creating this business, this new livelihood in a way that feels without pressure. So I live with family, so I don't have the urgency to worry about my basic needs. And also I've had a savings to lean on for certain expenses as well. So that's something that I'm grateful for and will always be grateful for. But I know that it's possible based on all the people that I've connected with for those who have had little to nothing and still have created an incredible business and livelihood from their gifts and their creativity. So, wanted to name that spectrum. And the things that I'm facing now are bringing in my design background again in the second year of my business. Even though I've had years and years of experience in that industry, I felt like I needed that distance to play and experiment with something not related to what I was doing in my 9 to 5. And now I realize, wait, I do really enjoy branding and design and strategy and social media campaigns and content with intention and experimentation, but in my own spin, in the way that you mentioned, with my own depth
Mhm.
and bringing in community. And so that's what I'm focusing on in this season of bringing in my design skills for folks while integrating creative rituals, bringing that to the forefront, bringing in my spirituality and those ceremonies into my work instead of hiding it and playing small in that way that no, like I actually do enjoy bringing this part of my work to folks and putting it together instead of hiding it. And another aspect of things that I'm focusing on is connection and community and peer support, where for the past couple of months, I've been reaching out to folks to create essentially like a horizontal peer support and connections and moving beyond DMs and getting on calls, even meeting folks in person and exchanging knowledge and resources and being able to lean onto each other. Yes, there are spaces for investing in mentorship and folks who are further ahead, but it's also beautiful to create community in a horizontal way and ra- raise each other up and amplify each other for free. Like that's community, and that's also incredibly valuable and really affirming to celebrate and hype each other up and guide us through the difficulties and see each other beyond business, see each other as a whole person with big visions. So I'd say those are two top of mind things for me for this year.
So incredible on so many levels. And of course, so aligned with who you are. Again, like as a Gemini sun, like you truly like are a community queen and a social media queen and just like a a connector of so many different people. You really thrive in having your people around you, connecting with others, and learning from others is so, so, so important. But I want to highlight the rituals aspect of it because your
Mhm,
Mercury, which is also in Gemini, is
mhm.
in your sixth house, which is daily routines, ritual, like
Oh,
habits, all
yeah.
these like fun, like ways to like bring in like that daily structure into even like day to day like work as well. And so the fact that like you're bringing people together to talk about even like horizontal leadership and peer support, because I agree, like people need to feel supported and we don't need to, it sucks to feel like you always have to pay for
Mhm,
community and
mhm.
pay for friends. I remember, gosh, like 3 years ago when I was, just going through my own awakening. Like I surrounded myself with a lot of people, but like I was paying those people. Like I was paying my healer and I was paying, my psychic and all this stuff and like on a ongoing basis, and it was great because I felt like I was like surrounding myself with people that knew me, but I'm like, "Girl, like this isn't community. Like you're literally paying these people to like talk to you." Like we need
Yeah.
to like be in community. Like it doesn't need to be always behind like we're humans and we need that. It's a basic human need, and so the fact that, like, you are bringing that and putting your own spin on it, right? Putting your own flavor into it, and also maybe even deconstructing it deconstructing it a little bit too. Again, Scorpio, your north node is very, like, deconstruction of, the status quo, and Gemini is here to experiment and have fun, and
Mhm.
with it being in your sixth house, like you get to not only like embody that, but you get to talk about it. You get to help people with it. You really know how to see it in others and be able to communicate your vision and your goals and your ideas in a really empowering way, which I find to be so, so cool. And it also in your sixth house, the same work, rituals, routine. You have your Venus in there as well, but it's actually in Cancer. Cancer
Mhm.
being like loving of like the home and which is so interesting. So like you having again rich calling them even rituals instead of like my morning routine or your morning practice, like really ritualizing your day and like beautifying it, like beautifying your home and beautifying your room, like really like bringing in those you're able to and then talk about it and help others, really bringing in these more creative aspects to all of those around you and like knowing that like this especially when it comes to your loved ones too in cancer, my Venus is in Cancer too, so
Yeah.
I'm like love that for us.
Yes.
So really like making sanctuary in every space that you're in, your online
Mhm.
spaces, your in-person spaces, everywhere, right? You're
Yeah.
treating everyone like family. You're treating everyone like a sibling, right? And like making sure your spaces feel just as safe and nurtured and cared for. And so it's written all over you, which is incredible.
Oh, that's so thank you for that. I that especially that last part that you mentioned feels really affirming because I've heard this said to me before, and that is an intention that I have, especially as someone who is an introvert. And growing up, I was extremely shy, super anxious to even say hello to people, that it's so important for me to make sure that spaces that I create or in spaces that I go into and where I connect with people, whether online or in person, that people do feel safe and that they
Mhm.
can express themselves fully. And so to hear that show up literally in my chart and explaining it, I'm like, wow, that's so cool to hear.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's the best. And that's what it's like, it's all like this is all within you, you know? And like, so of course that's why
Mhm.
you feel passionate about it. And that's why like you also grew up introverted. So you know what it's like to not feel safe and to feel uncomfortable and to feel unwelcome in spaces, right? We can't know what is without knowing what it is not. And
Mhm.
especially with your line 3 in human design, like you are really here to you experiment through life and you have to live it in order to
Yeah.
learn it, right? It's I have it too. And sometimes it can be hard.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes it's not great. But in my opinion, like a line 3 is like we just it helps us become a master teacher because we
Mhm.
really have lived through the experience so much that we are able to talk about it. We're able to resonate so deeply and we're able to see the people that we are really here to help because we've been them before,
Mhm.
right? And you're really
Yes.
just becoming the person that you needed
Mhm.
when we were a little girls terrified to say hi to anybody. And
Mhm.
now, like, being, like, a beacon of, like, bringing communities together. I can't even imagine, like, going back to that little girl and be like, "We're literally, like, creating all these different communities in all these different spaces." Can you believe it? She'd be
Mhm.
like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
What?"
So special, especially I think you mentioned inner child earlier, and I forget which part. But yeah, just like that's a big part of my own work too, and to for clients and within myself of reminding where I've been and having that practice of gratitude. And yes, on the experiment part with the line 3 that you mentioned, the difficulty piece of that is like sometimes I'm frozen, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, do I want to do this? What am I like? And then I don't do the thing. I don't take action and then I won't know how to improve on it because I
Mhm.
didn't do it or I didn't start. And so that is true that there's a lot of learnings with the experimentation that I guide folks through as well of a lot of difficulty with creative projects is people are frozen into non-action because there's overthinking, there's perfectionism, all these
Mhm.
things that can come up. But yeah, it's true. You'll learn more when you take that first step. And then you can figure out, okay, what's the next direction or path to take after. But if there's no movement, nothing will happen.
Absolutely. And especially when it comes to you're 1-3, me too.
Mhm.
So, I really feel you in this, but I feel like because there's that overthinking and that one really wants to dive in and learn everything we possibly can. And there's almost like there's this part of us that like still doesn't know enough and
Oh, yeah.
still feels like there's more to be done. We have to think about this more. And that procrastination becomes so uncomfortable when it comes to then doing it. And that's when, and you also have emotional authority, just like me.
Oh,
That's when we have to
yeah.
use our authority to then really and keep ourselves accountable to bring us forward, right? Feeling into our emotional wave and being like, am I just on a low emotional wave or is this actually just not aligned? Because there's different,
Mm.
right? And like when we come back into our neutrality, when we finally feel clear again, being like, okay, like, what did that low in my wave teach me? And like, what do I actually need to do in order to take action to move forward? Because like, we're always going to be learning. We're always going to be on some rabbit hole, especially with your Gemini sun and
Mhm.
Mercury. Like,
Yeah.
it's like there's the information, like, there's the limit does not exist to the amount of information
Ugh,
that can be
sometimes it's
downloaded into you.
tiring. Yeah, so true.
Like, you are just an endless vault. The amount of information that you can process, that you can absorb, that you can learn, like, it's endless, but it's like now, really bringing in again, like, that Saturn structure and being like, "Okay, like, I can learn all I want, but, like, it's not gonna mean anything. Like, it's not gonna mean anything until I let myself do it." And that's when we can get stuck because we keep feeling like, well, we're learning all of this because we don't want we're trying to not to make the wrong decision, and we're trying not to take the wrong action, which we can, like, roll our eyes because it's like sounds when we say it out loud, it sounds so silly because there is no such thing as, like, action is action, right? It's like we gotta just at the end of the
Mhm,
day, the only wrong action to take is just no action at all. And the more that we
mhm.
allow ourselves to get out of our own way and, like, lean into our own trust muscles, we can start to build momentum, which then builds our confidence, which then helps us
Yes.
actually learn. And maybe to everyone else, it looks like we're failing fast, right? And, like, doing this pivot and that pivot. But at the end of the day, like, it's all part of the gathering of the information, right? We have to do the experiment. We can't be in research mode forever. We're not
Mhm.
librarians as much as, like,
So I fantasize about it.
yeah, as I'm sure you definitely have.
Ugh, so on brand.
Very.
This is yeah. I mean, behind me, I mean, we're on a Zoom call, so you can see that I have a bookshelf with a bunch of books that I have yet to read, and you can't see it, but there's like a bench with shelving. So there's books inside the shelving and on top of it.
Mhm.
So, and I just got a book yesterday at an event that I was in and all these courses that I'm in. So yeah. And my 30th birthday theme was academia. So there you go.
Very on brand for you.
I didn't even think about it relating to my chart or anything. My sister and I were trying to brainstorm, and then she said something, or I hadn't, she was saying things, and then I had this vision of something around libraries, something about books.
I'm
Yeah.
obsessed.
So a little tangent, but not really. But there you
Not
go.
really. I mean, it's literally in your DNA. Like, it's just
Yeah.
it's who you are. Like, you're an information keeper, and you're like, just like that seek and that drive, like, you love it. And it's like, I think that's so important to know that it's a strength of yours. Like, you can again, you are an endless vault. Like, the information that you can absorb from all different types of media, books, online, in person, like,
Mm, yep.
all of it, right? The courses that you're taking, like, it's endless the amount that you can absorb, and it's such a strength. And then, like, knowing it's like, okay, but how do I put action towards this strength,
I
right?
need integration and application.
Yes, yes. How do we integrate all of this
Yeah.
knowledge that we're learning and, like, put it into practice, which again, your 6th house, all about the rituals and sanctuary and all of that, like, that's gonna be so, so, so helpful for you as you continue to, like, evolve and grow. But yeah, it's just so fun. Do you have any, like, particular questions that you have for me? Something that you want me to
You.
focus on? Because 'Cause you've just been, like,
Yeah.
shooting the shit, but it's been really
Which I
working
love.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, hmm. I think it's probably an extension of what we've been talking about, but I guess around what I could keep in mind in terms of what what in my chart or how to show up in a way that feels really aligned and effortless in terms of growing my design services to folks, to soul community. Because I've heard, well, I want to keep it open-ended, but I've heard things like, oh, what platforms that feel effortless for me to show up on based on X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
or Yeah, just like anything that you think would be interesting around that. Let me know if I can clarify that question or make it more specific. But yeah, maybe we could start
But
there.
grasping, I think the main is like, how can I better like show up when it comes to like the design aspect of my
Mm,
business? Is that
yeah.
what we're kind of looking for? Like more clarity
Yeah.
around that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. As I'm like, I'm so excited. I mean, for me, when I look at your chart, I really want you to embrace not only, of course, your Gemini and that Gemini sun, like knowing that you are so naturally creative that it's like, it's this when we think of our sun, right? It's the center of our solar system, right? It's the universe, our own little main character energy, and all the
Mhm.
planets are orbiting around this piece. So remembering that like at the heart of who you are, it's your creativity. I keep getting very gravitated towards your Scorpio energy. And for me, it's like, how can we take this sun, right? The creative, the expressive energy, and really embrace the unseen part of it, right?
Mm,
And making it seen. Really almost allowing yourself to not have rules. Even I'm seeing like, even though we love strategy and structure, but what would it look like if you didn't? Like having true creative freedom to truly create anything that you want to talk about, especially using your voice more. I'm hearing as well, like using your actual voice, using your writing, using again your actual voice, whether that's through podcasts, whether that's through reels, however you want to
yeah.
perceive that, but just allowing yourself to be heard more, but a lot more freely, right? Even just like your random thoughts that come to you, like on like a random Tuesday, I want you to
Yeah.
really explore where that takes you. Like if you had no limits and you had no like even desired platforms to be put on, allowing yourself to create, not to sell your design
Mhm.
services, but just to create. And even then bringing people through your process of creation, right? Maybe showing them the end result and then giving them the behind the scenes of what this means to you and what emotions this brought up and how it actually healed even a part of you, right?
Mm, yeah.
Maybe even bringing people through your rituals and routines you have around creativity, around maybe what you do throughout your day. If you like doodle in the mornings, or if you start to like imagine, especially with your inner vision, really understanding and bringing people through that process of yours, like you really, especially in your human design, you internalize, you visually see through your third eye what you're here to create and what you're here to be brought through. And so to me, when I look at your chart, it's like when we strip back the rules and what we feel like we it should look like, and the patriarchy and the
Mhm.
systems, and like removing all of the boundaries and letting yourself create unapologetically to your fullest and seeing where that leads you. And like, I feel like that showcases the depth of your design, which then in turn sells people on your design services and who you are and how you operate because they get to know you more.
Mm,
Does that
yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. No, this feels like confirmation and things that I've been like thinking about. And I have all of these thoughts that I've had for several years of different types of content. And I'm like, I don't know if that fits, or I don't know if I have energy for that because I'm focused on other quote unquote strategic types of content. But I'm having more freedom and experimentation with using threads, for example, on
Hmm.
sharing my writing, like you said, and some thoughts that are coming up that aren't, you know, business aligned all the time, or allowing myself to express the depth that I am thinking about or moving through. Um, and I am actually taking a short writing course. And so that feels really complementary to what you're talking about. And that feels really great too. Just like a relief in a way,
Hmm.
or this like this breath of exhale that, yeah, lean into my creativity even more and get super experimental and weird and open and let people see that process. Because I've done that before when I was really into when I had unknowingly been in the beginner's mindset of a passion project that opened so many doors for me.
Hmm.
But I was really leaning into that experimentation and sharing my voice and um, all these things that you've shared. And I don't know what it is, but I've put more structure around trying to replicate that,
Hmm.
but it feels harder. And so it could just be as easy as creatively playing and releasing the overthinking. And one other thing that, like, random thing that you mentioned about the inner vision, I'm like, "Oh, so that's why I can think of outfits without, like, laying it out." And, like, my
Yes.
sister or my friends, like, they'll mention that they need to do that for like, my sister has to pull out outfits, try them on for
Hmm.
packing, for trips, but for me, I can just, like, even before opening my closet, I just know, like, yeah, that's the outfit I'll put together with the accessories." And I thought that was just me. I mean, it is part of the creative aspect of me, but it's interesting to hear specifically about the inner vision piece that you mentioned.
Yes. Like, so I have outer vision. So I'm more like your sister. Like, I need to lay everything
Ooh.
out.
Yeah,
I need to like see the beauty around me, like, and like I need to see what it all looks like on the outside. But for you, yes, it's so much more internal. Like, you're able to actually see the vision without seeing the vision, which
mm,
with creatives, I find
yeah,
to be so interesting. And I've always been so like, even like interior designers, like when they're able to walk into to a house and they can just see the potential without seeing it. I'm always in awe, or artists like on a blank canvas. And I'm like, I find it to be so incredible. I'm like, I don't know how there is a blank canvas one moment and now you're just like adding all these things to it. And all of a sudden it just becomes this like gorgeous thing. And it's like that inner vision is just, it's your gift.
creativity's magic, like, from
Yes.
nothing, from literal, like, in your head or blank canvas to something beautiful. I think that's always so special to reframe it in that way. Like, it's a powerful gift.
It is. It is. And now you get to play with it. Spent that
Yeah.
fifth house placement, let it play. Take all the structures around off of it. Even for like you, if you want to even experiment with like a fin, like I feel like especially your Gemini ass too, like a finsta, like I can see you having like a finsta, and even like to give yourself that outlet that doesn't have this like boundary
Mm,
of business, to just even play on something else without the pressure or anything behind it, to even just see what that feels like. And then you can bring elements of that into your business and like maybe even repurpose some of those posts, but like giving yourself just like a blank slate of a place to truly like break the barriers of your own creativity and go even deeper and deeper and deeper and play without, again, like that beginner's mindset of without realizing the consequences or what this looks like or
yeah.
what it means and like how does this relate, like we can put so many invisible walls on ourselves. And so the more that you're able to play with it, especially with that fifth house placement, like I'm telling you, like the more you lean in, the more, especially with your north node being your in your 10th house of career and public image, they mirror each other. And so the more you pour into your eternal play, the more like that's what you're going to be known for and seen as.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, you've probably mentioned this before, but could you clarify again what North Node signifies? Yeah, I think I just was curious there.
Yes. Okay. So your North Node is they call it like your life purpose.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I like to kind of like it's like the your life purpose I feel like can sometimes be so limiting, but I like to think of your North Node as the energy that you are meant to embody in this lifetime, right? It's
Mm,
the overall energy that you are here to move through life and evolve into,
yeah.
right? And so you have your South Node being like, this is where we're very comfortable, this is where we are, and we're leaning more like out facing, right? To our
Mm,
outer world, which is like where we're going, right? The direction of the dragon. And so having these two opposing forces, I find the more that you pour into your South Node and really, and for you, it is in Gemini. No, as I'm like, no, it would be in Taurus. It would be in Taurus. As I'm like, I'm not looking at your now I'm looking at your chart. Your South Node in Taurus, which I find to be very interesting. And like again, a sign ruled by Venus, ruled by
mm,
beauty, like by that creativity, abundant energy with Scorpio. So you feed that beauty, that love, that creative spark with Scorpio of also breaking down those barriers. Like for your 10th house, like you are meant to be very successful, very seen. Your Jupiter is there as well, but seen for the things that might not come as naturally to you, right? And so it's the energy that you're meant to embody, which can mean your career, but can mean so many other things too. But it's what you're meant to feel. Like you have
mm.
this very deep understanding of who you are, your work, your career, your art on a deeper level.
Ooh,
Does
that's
that make
so
sense?
fascinating. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna have to play this back, take some notes for safekeeping. And as you were talking around North Node and South Node, the concept or like the midheaven also came up to mind. I'm like slowly learning about how that's also relevant to business. So I was curious what your thoughts there are around what that means to you and how you see that in relation to those who are growing a business.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So midheaven is really awesome. Again, midheaven, it starts your 10th house of the chart. So basically, when you look at the birth chart, you have your ascendant, descendant, you have your midheaven, and then your IC below, all polarities of the chart. Your midheaven starts your 10th house, which your 10th house, which is where your North Node and Jupiter is, rules over public image,
Mm,
work,
yeah.
career,
Okay.
etc. So a lot of people say that your midheaven and the sign that rules over your midheaven can also be where you're meant to be seen, be successful, especially when it comes to business. You're really able to lean on those places. Your midheaven starts in Libra,
Mhm.
and then it goes into your 10th house being in Scorpio. So with Libra on your midheaven, again, like another air sign, but for you, it's Libra, again, ruled by Venus.
Mm,
Very understanding of like, you're here to create harmony and beauty in the world, right? And you love, again, with that horizontal structure is also very Libra. You crave fairness And
Mm,
so I think it's a really cool thing to see, especially when your North Node lines up. It's basically your midheaven, to answer your question, is just where you're meant to shine the brightest. And
okay.
you can lean on it in your business. It depends on where other things are in your
Mhm,
chart. My North Node is also in my 10th house. So that's why it's like sometimes when we think of life purpose, we want to always think of career, but that's why I like to call it as like it's an energy because
mhm.
it's not always tied to what you do. But in your case, it kind of is. And you are really meant to shine in what you do and be recognized for what you do, but you cannot be recognized for what you do until you recognize it within yourself.
Ooh, got it.
I know, it's a big one.
Called out. Ooh, thank you for defining that, sharing more about that. I mean, I could ask you all these questions because you've been answering so beautifully and so in depth. Like, I'm learning so much. So,
Oh,
yeah,
thank
just
you.
incredible.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you. This was so much fun. I hope you got as much out of this as you were intending to or wanted
Yes.
to. But I love, how can people find you? What are you working on? Where do you want people to connect with you? I want to give it up to you and like lay all your stuff out there because you're so incredible. And I can't even wait to personally work with you when I get there to my redesign
Yeah.
moment, which is always coming. Is always coming. I'm always good. I love a good rebrand.
Yeah.
But anyway, how can people connect with you? How can they work with you, etc.?
Yes. Thank you so much, Megan, for this conversation. Truly learned so much. And I know your people, your audience, and those who are listening are going to learn so much. So thank you. And for those who are listening in, again, I'm Isabel Bagsik. I'm the founder of Unconventional Bliss, which is also where you can find me on Instagram, also the name of my website, all the things. And again, I'm a creative wellness guide and soulful brand designer here for all those huge, incredible visionaries and leaders who are having all of these beautiful visions and ideas that they know that they need guidance on with bringing to life with wellness and practices and rituals to get there. And also for those with businesses and brands who are ready for a rebrand or a new brand, whether it's for their brand assets, their social media, their website, strategy, all of those things. But the way that I come into it, as we've been talking, is integrating creative rituals like meditation, oracle card readings, and other things that may feel relevant for your particular vision and mission. So that's what I'm here to support you with. So if any of that feels super exciting or you're curious, feel free to send me a DM, slide into the DMs. I love doing that. And again, you can find me at Unconventional Bliss.
Ah, Isabel, thank you so much. Just like talking to you, your voice, oh my God, it's like a warm hug.
Mm,
So
thank
I
you.
feel like we could, especially two Geminis, I mean, we can
Oh
just,
my gosh. Yeah.
this conversation could literally never end. But
Part
I
two,
just,
a series. Yeah.
oh my God, it's the best. It
Hmm.
really is the best, but at the same time, all good things
Yes.
with must come to an end. I can't thank you enough. Your energy is so beautiful. Everyone go follow Isabel. She's so incredible. She's just a joy to have on your feed. And it's just so fun. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you for letting me don't come into your energy and read for you. And I can't wait to see what this next era of your life is going to turn into. It's going to be so fun.
Thank you. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you again.
All right, everyone. Until next time. Bye.